So I've done a bunch of videos recently on two-note harmonies, and we were talking about hexatonic major. And I think a good thing to do would be to expand hexatonic major, which was a 6-tone scale, to a 7-tone scale that's used all the time in blues, Mixolydian. And we were in the key of A. And if we were in the key of A and we played hexatonic, just as a reminder, you would have root, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and then it would repeat. So it's a 6-tone scale, first 6 notes of the major scale. So there's no 7th degree. So I want to expand today to Mixolydian, which is a mode of the major scale, which means it has 7 tones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Has a flat 7 in it. But instead of being in the key of A like we've been, let's move to the key of E. And so really quickly, the notes of E Mixolydian are E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D. Just like Helter Skelter by the Beatles. And then if you continue, so you should practice that all over the neck. But double stops, 2-note voicings, as I was talking about, you can play thirds, meaning notes that are an interval of a third apart. So if you're within the major scale and you start on the root note, the third would be 2 scale degrees away. So E and G sharp are thirds. And then that relationship of 2 notes being thirds apart, if it stays diatonic within the scale structure of, that's what diatonic means, diatonic to E Mixolydian, you can easily just play up the neck on one string, play E Mixolydian from E, and then do the same thing from the G sharp, that thirds relationship. So those thirds together. And then, of course, you could go from a third to a fourth. You can create melodies in a simple way off of those 2-note voicings by changing one of the notes. If you change the lower note, like we had, or if you went, so I started with the 5th and the 7th, then I went 5th root, 4th root. So I'm just moving notes around. And then there's also, you end up with fifths, like we had this, with the B and the E, or 5th here. So this is root 3rd, root 4th, root 5th, and then root 6th. And it's very common for people to play melodies based on 6th, Mixolydian 6. That's super common. So I'm going to play a solo over a backing track, improvised solo, and I'm just going to use a whole mishmash of these things and then talk about them. It's a huge subject. There's a billion things you could do. So this is just a lesson to offer some examples of things that you could do using E Mixolydian double stops based on thirds, fourths, fifths, and sixths. So here we go. 1, 2, 3. Okay, that was a whole bunch of stuff. So I started with so these are thirds, and then those are seconds apart. Back to thirds. That's fourths apart, and it's just kind of a lick to get into the triad, but then you have sixths over there. And then I may have done this thing based on, following the chord. So I'm going to use a Mixolydian to go, and I was using tremolo picking. So when I get to the B chord, the 5 chord, I do the same thing. I use B Mixolydian. So the tremolo picking technique is its own thing of with the lower strings picked with the thumb and the higher strings picked with the middle finger, and I try to mute. Once a string is picked, then it's muted after that. And then I did the same technique when I was playing thirds. Over there like that. So, it just... And I did an oblique bend. So those are 2-note shapes too. And I think I did so I think of that as thirds also. But if you're thinking of E, I'm bending that minor third G to G sharp, the major third. But even if I go, still 2 notes, changing the higher note, and then I turned it into this pull-off lick. So, there's so many ways to play 2 notes. So good thing is to just be aware of what you're playing. Try these different intervallic distances of thirds, fourths, fifths, sixths, sevenths, octaves, and then sixths. Are really handy. So there's a lot to explore. Have some fun with those.